I've been in the fashion industry about 20 years. And I used to fly all over the world, Japan, China, work for some of the biggest brands, had all my clothes all in the stores, all over the place. And I just, I realized that the fashion industry was really OG. Like there was no tech. So I started a fashion tech company just to connect us. And from there, I started to realize that I really wanted to understand my tech. I owned a tech company, and I can't even change a picture on my website. You know, at the time. I can now, but I couldn't then. So that's what got me into it. I just wanted to empower myself as an entrepreneur. I was the girl selling candy. Yay for the people that were selling candy at the schools. You know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. I was selling candy, I was making clothes, I was doing what I had to do because I'm from South LA, and sometimes you have to make ends meet by being an entrepreneur yourself. So that's why I got into tech. It is extremely empowering. I can now code, I can build websites. It gives me, people respect, other engineers respect it. I can bring a team together. So that's why I got into it, and I'd like to know from the rest of the panel, you know, why did you get into it, and what did you, how did you get into it, and what did you learn? How did you learn to get involved?
Well, I am the eldest person on the stage. And I just want to say that as far as technology is concerned, everything that I've done in my career so far has always involved technology. And I knew that it was going to be a quote-unquote wave of the future. And I wanted to make sure that I knew what was going on. You can't keep up if you don't try. So what I did, I graduated from high school, went to college for a couple years, got married, and eventually decided to go back to community college to become a respiratory therapist. And respiratory therapy is full of STEM, it's science, technology, it's engineering and math, because not only was I going to learn how to deal with patients, I was going to deal with a lot of machinery that I was going to have them placed on. So I needed to know what a solenoid was. I needed to know how to, what outlets and where I'm supposed to plug in a ventilator. I needed to know a lot of gas laws, a lot of chemistry, a lot of physics. So that's what I did for quite some time, for 15 years, and then I decided to go back to school and to get into tech further, and I got an information systems degree from Penn State University. All the while having the opportunity to be a system administrator over a system I had no idea what I was doing. So don't be afraid to not know what you're doing, because if you have some just rudimentary skills, just some basic skills to be able to know that A plus B equals C, you'll figure it out. So it's all about figuring it out. I figured it out. I was able to become the system administrator, got my degree, got my job at a hospital in IT. I am in IT. I don't do coding. I don't do special little detailed stuff like that. I fuss at everybody and tell them what to do. So, and I liked doing that. And I also love hardware. So I'm a hardware person. I love servers. I love switches. I love routers. I love putting them all together and making them work. That's what I like to do. So when you think about technology, don't hold yourself into one little area, one little spot. Technology is all over the place. So that's how I got started.
So from all the software engineers, thank you, Lori, because I like to make stuff. Lori makes that possible, or people like Lori. The way I got into all this, I grew up playing video games, far too many. My mom would tell me to go outside because I was on the game too much, and then I'd go outside, play with my friends, and come to have an excuse to come in and play more games. So that was basically, I grew up playing games. I'd watch E3 on G4 and stuff. I'd read gaming magazines. I was super crazy about games. So when high school came and it came time for me to decide what to do with my life, it was kind of, I've only really had one passion, and it was games. So I pursued it into college. I actually went to DeVry. I went there for 4 years and got my game and simulation programming degree. But so I went to college, but in the game industry, it's very clear you will not. My professor told us you won't get a game industry job if you don't do stuff outside of class. So the stuff that got me a job was all the small side projects I did. I wanted to make the next Mario. I tried. It was not as good as Mario, but I tried. And stuff like that became like talking points for my interviews and stuff. I have a portfolio filled with small games I've done, games I've worked on professionally, just stuff like that. So if you want to make games or really any kind of tech, it's super important you do it in your free time because that's how they know that you can do it. After college, I graduated. I got my first I got my first game development job that came after 300 applications to different game companies, and I think I had 10 interviews before I finally got my job. I worked in games eventually, and since then, it's been games and VR, and games and VR tech are pretty similar, so if you know how to do one, you can do the other. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So just like him, I really was interested in games. Unlike Lori, though, I hate switches. Like I hate it a lot. And that's how I got into it. I'm interested in computer science and mathematics, not because I actually wanted to do it from the start. I just was good at math, and I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to keep doing this until I hate it, and I just kept doing it. I went to school. I did electrical engineering, actually, so I did a lot of switches, routers, and I took a class, and I was like, this is horrible. I'm trying not to cuss, but it was really bad. It was really, really bad. So I talked to my professor, and I was like, well, when can we get to the real electrical engineering stuff? Because that's what I want to do. And he was like, this is the fundamental part of all of it. And that same day, I changed my major. That same exact day. I changed my major to computer science, and I minored in mathematics, and that's how I got into it. And I actually just fell in love with it. It was really random, though, because, to be honest, I really thought that I was going to do electrical engineering like my entire life. Like I was focused on doing that. And that's how I knew that, whatever you think that you're going to be doing right now, more than likely you're going to change it. Like 90% chance, whatever you like right now, it's probably going to change. For the few of us that know what we want and we're going to keep doing it, that's good. But for most of us, we're just going to go out there, we're going to try something, hate it probably, and then do what we actually want to do. And that's really trial and error. So now I've been working in computer science for about 5 or 6 years, and it's been great. So now I can do artificial intelligence. I work with people like Warner Brothers. They want to make sure that their stuff is like the coolest and fastest and most up-to-date stuff, and we have the benefit of building that stuff for them. So it's just been a real treat.
And Jonathan from VRX.
All right. My past not as traditional. I was born in Minnesota, grew up there, a lot of TV, a whole lot of video games, wasn't much to do, it was always snowing and stuff. From there, I grew up traditional life, always saw all the black people on TV. They were like hip-hop artists and like athletes and stuff, so I thought that's what I wanted to do. Try to do the sports thing, wasted my time. I actually ruptured my spleen playing around out there too, so foolish. Then I chose to just move to California after like working my job and just being like, this is so boring. So I moved to California pursuing music like, I saw on TV. And eventually I was like, this isn't even it for me. Around that time, I saw a 360 video. It was like Snoop Dogg and YouTube were making a video, and it was like a parody video of virtual reality stuff. And I was like, yo, this is the wave. And I've been doing it ever since. I just started watching a whole lot of YouTube videos on it, kind of taught myself, found some friends who were kind of interested, got them doing it more, and we just been building ever since. A lot more YouTube videos after that. Once I had watched enough YouTube videos, I started reaching out to people like, can I work with you or work for you? Got an internship, they taught me a bunch of skills, and then I was like, I could probably do this myself. All through that time, I was working like a 9 to 5 at the Boy Scouts too. So if you're like trapped in that cycle already, know that you can break free. You just gotta sacrifice some movies or whatever you do like after work. Yeah, then I got a big opportunity at Facebook through the Oculus Launchpad program. I don't know if any of you guys know about that, but if you're 18 and over, Sunday, I think this year's applications close. So you should definitely do that. Please do that. What's it called? Oculus Launchpad. You can look it up on your phone right now. Applications open till Sunday. Please change my whole life. It could change yours too, even if you're just mildly interested. Yeah, I don't know. I just built a business up from the stuff I like to do. We're creating animations. We do a lot of content creation. It's been cool. Yeah.
All right. So I attended Cal State Northridge. I was a biochemistry major, and initially I wanted to start a nonprofit, but I couldn't afford to pay anybody to build my own website. And it's just like $500, I couldn't afford it. So I figured it couldn't be that hard to learn basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then, so once I figured it out, it took me about 3 months to build my first website. And then a church hired me to do their website. And then somebody else hired me to do their website. Then I figured I could just start a business, which is Creative Spoons, building websites and mobile apps for other people. So pretty much that's my story. I was like self-taught. I didn't really go the boot camp route, or I didn't get a degree in software engineering, but I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So to get into, like I said, I was always an entrepreneur. To get into the startup world, basically it was networking. I was always a go-getter, so I needed to know the right people. I went over to Santa Monica, Silicon Beach is what we call it. I met everybody. I got into a pre-accelerator. I started a company. I got my team. That's how I started my entrepreneurial route. As far as coding, I tried to teach myself. It was quite challenging, and I ended up, I went to all the boot camps, but a boot camp called Code District actually gave me a scholarship, so I took that one. Shout out to Code District for that. Good looking out. And I learned, as he talked about, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you're going to build websites and apps, JavaScript is the language that you're going to want to know. Every website has it. That's your first step. Now, for the rest of the panel, where can they, like Lori, how did you start? Like, what's the tools that they would like? What language would they learn, or not even language? What would they do to get into what you're doing?
So one of the things that I would recommend is finding an information technology foundation book. So you can find a book, or you could find, go to a group. There's a group called CompTIA, CompTIA. They do have a fundamentals. So what a fundamentals course does, and to me, it's simple now, but it gives you a high level of what's going on with the technology, especially with the network. So you have a network, you might have a server on a network. The server is performing several different functions and allowing and sending you different information to your desktop or to your laptop. Is either doing it wirelessly, or it's doing it through an Ethernet connection, a LAN connection, your WAN connection, your blah, 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 blah. So you want to be able to learn all of that information from a high level. That's what fundamentals do. Then you can make a decision. You can make a decision. Well, I want to go ahead and I want to learn Python. I want to learn R because I want to be a data scientist. There are many, 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 many free resources online to be able to learn any language that you want. Seriously, any one. Free Code Camp is something that you can do. You can work on your own, at your own pace, at your own speed. And what they do, what Free Code Camp does, after you learn how to code, you sit there and they give you jobs to do. You volunteer your time, but you build websites and all for nonprofits. So that's part of you giving back for them providing this free course. So there are many, many things you can do, but I do want to just say the main thing you need is natural curiosity. You want to know how it works? Figure out how it works. Put the 2 and 2 together to figure out how it works. You need to have natural curiosity. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to grasp the concepts too well. And that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Lori. Jonathan, so if they're wanting to develop games, which I know so many people want to make games. I mean, if you love games, why not make them? How would they go about learning? What languages, what tools would they use?
Right. So games are pretty much all based off of game engines. That's the easiest way to get into making a game right now. Unity and Unreal are the 2 big 3D ones. If you just want to make games, I would encourage you to start with 2D, because I feel like the difference between 2D and 3D is It's tricky. That z-axis changes things, which z is depth. But for 2D game engines, I would pick up Game Maker Studio. I would pick up, you can do 2D games in Unity. There's Construct 2. There's lots of 2D game engines. And then, like I said, if you want to do VR and games, then I would pick up Unity or Unreal. I primarily program in C#. You can also program in what Unity calls JavaScript, but it's really a Unity script offshoot of JavaScript. You can also program in C++, but what's probably simpler than all of that is Unity and Unreal have gotten really into visual scripting. So there's something called Playmaker where you can basically visually set up your logic instead of like knowing what variables are and functions and all that code. You can actually see what your program's doing, and it just gives you like a visual roadmap, because programming can be really abstract, and I think that's the hardest barrier to get through it. So I would really encourage anybody who's just curious to get into visual scripting type stuff. And like Lori said, you have to have a natural curiosity. Like I said, I wanted to make Mario, so I had to start with trying to make Pong, and then I think the first thing I did was like a text adventure. So it was like, hey, push 1 to go to the store. You push 1, and it says, hey, you went to the store. That was game 1. So next we moved to Pong. It's like, okay, if I push up, this paddle goes up. If I push down, the paddle goes down. Okay, I got this, man. And it just escalates from that point. You take each piece, and it basically plays a bigger component in the next games you build until, you know, one day you build a Skyrim, or you build a God of War, or something that just takes all those components and makes it one big experience.
Brett, you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, those games are cool. No, I'm just joking. I could just talk about, for artificial intelligence is a very, very broad discipline. They're like, right now I work in machine learning, and machine learning is mostly data driven, and sometimes it can get a little boring, but there's neural networks, there's natural language processing, which you guys know is like, your AI, and there's chatbots, there's a bunch of stuff like that. What I would say is, just like what Lori was saying, you should probably not try and focus on the language you're trying to learn, but like what discipline you're trying to get into. So we don't want to flail about and like try and be like, oh, let's just JavaScript's the hottest thing right now. Don't worry about that. Just figure out what you want to do first. Once you figure out what you want to do, then you figure out how to do it. That's how you're supposed to do it. So if you want to know something place to start, then maybe JavaScript or Python is good because it's very easy to learn. But don't just start trying to figure out what's the hottest thing and do that, because your job could get replaced in like 3 to 5 years. You want to have some sense of longevity, and so that's where you want to focus on like what you care about. So if you care about trying to build your own Siri, then do that, and focus on natural language processing for AI. For me, I care about data because I want to make money, so I want to make sure that when I work with business people, that we can make as much money as possible. That's what I care about. So like for you, if you care about video games, then you want to make sure that you're focused on what type of video games. Are they 2D? Are they 3D? And then you can go into the disciplines. And that's really all that matters.
Side note on data. So I always thought, data science, that just, sounds really boring, but actually, it's actually very exciting. So if any of you are like psych majors, you're into psychology, the habits of people, data science kind of measures and like quantifies like what people are doing and what's the hottest, the greatest, the latest, and you can make a lot of money from it. So you might want to look into that. It's actually really cool. Did we have anything to add? You talked about YouTube videos. So that was definitely a good one.
Yeah, I'll just echo what both of them said a little bit. For virtual reality, I use Unity, which is a game engine, and C# is the way to do it. I'm also going to say I'm not even that strong of a coder myself personally. Another way to get good at coding is just find a friend who's really passionate and good at coding. And even if you're not that passionate, you'll just start to pick up a lot hanging out with them because they will be, and it just rubs off. Also, YouTube videos, yes, please. Like, you can watch YouTube and look at cats throwing up and stuff, or you could really use it as like a serious tool to like change your entire life. So, the choice is kind of yours. And like he said, also, you do kind of have to know what you're going for. It's easy to just set a goal and say, I want to do this, and then just see how you have to do that. Look at all the different tutorials, talk to people who you know who do that already, and yeah, just set goals. It'll be really helpful as far as just choosing what you want to do.
Brian, you already mentioned you just kind of went for HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Do you have anything else to add to that at all?
I think for the most part, you just gotta be motivated. For me, I use a lot of textbooks and tutorials like YouTube, Free Coding Academy or whatnot. But honestly, it just comes down to being motivated, to having passion and having purpose. Actually want to get out and do it. I think that's probably the strongest thing I can say.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of meetups, meetup.com has a lot of groups. You just meet every Thursday at a coffee shop, and everybody's just learning whatever particular language you want to look into. So I mentor all these youth in South LA, and one of the ways that I help them to find their path is I say, okay, so what do you want to be? You want to be a game developer? Well, we would go, where do you want to work? What's the biggest, baddest gaming company out there? You should probably say that company.
Not my company. We'll say Santa Monica or Epic does Fortnite, right?
Epic, right. Okay, I want to work for Epic. Okay, so we go on the Epic website, we look at the jobs, and we see what they need to learn, what the skills that they need to know, and then you go and you learn those. My biggest challenge in getting involved in tech was just like where to start. So this is a solution right here and now. This is saving you about a good 3-6 months. That's how long it took me to figure out, like, really where to go. I didn't know what to learn. I couldn't find engineers. I'm like, how do you find these people? Like, where are they? Engineers are like on their computer. They're not out at the club, So, so you can't find them. These guys are hard to find. It was hard to find them right now. Especially engineers of color who will help you along the way, or women engineers, to help me as a woman. It was hard to find, but when I found them, they were like more than willing and ready to help. And like you said, I'm not the best coder, but I'm a boss, you know what I mean? So I'm able to like rally up people and work on something, a project. So speaking of mentors have been a game changer for me. Who are some of your mentors? How did you find them? How did you go about getting these mentors?
Well, I could say I don't need anybody, but which is partially true. No, down through the years, when someone has faith in you and faith in your abilities, it proffers a certain level of trust. And once those people have trust in you, they allow you to explore and to expand your understanding, and they also allow you to think outside of the box when it comes to providing solutions for them. So I have had great bosses, men and women bosses, and not directly in technology per se, because I was pretty timid when it came to technology, because I felt like, you feel like eyes are boring into your brain, and they go, oh, she really is stupid. And that may not be the case, but that's just the way it felt to me. But being able to have someone trust me enough to be able to fix something for them, whatever the solution was, it could be something as simple as, maybe we ought to use a spreadsheet. Well, instead of using a spreadsheet, maybe we ought to use this database over here, versus maybe we ought to do this over here to be able to collect this data. We need to be able to feel comfortable that whoever's asking us that we have the skills and we have the wherewithal to be able to get those things done.
Thank you, Lori.
So my first mentor is probably my producer from my first job. He used to work at Activision. So there's not many black programmers in the world, honestly, and there's even fewer in game programming. So like Lori said, when you have somebody who's willing to bring you into the company and who believes in your capability, it's super empowering. So he brought me in. He kind of taught me how the game thing works, right? Because there's a difference between coding games in my bedroom at my mom's house versus we're in an office now, and it's just a different environment. It's a different way that you build things. So honestly, most of my mentors are the men I've worked with. They kind of just guided me and taught me how to make games, how to be a professional, how to conduct myself, and how to like really value myself as an engineer. Also, Cassie was saying about meetups, going to meetups and meeting people who are veterans in the industry is super helpful. And it's funny how just talking to somebody can teach you so much more about the world that you didn't know, just because they have the experience. So I definitely encourage you to just get out there and meet people. If you see a meetup relevant to your industry, go, because I think the older I get, the more excited I get to see people younger than me who want to do what I want to do. Because I remember how excited I was coming out of college, how cool it was to meet all these people. Oh, you worked on that, or you worked on this, and yeah. So just get out there and try to network and meet people who do what you want to do.
I didn't really have any mentors. I would say, well, not in my field, I'd say. I mostly was surrounded by a lot of people that were in a different discipline than me, but I think I called them mentors because they taught me how to think and like how to solve problems, and that's kind of like quintessential to doing anything. So I had a lot of mentors or a lot of people that helped me through college, that kind of helped me figure out exactly what I wanted to do. And a lot of colleagues right now that have really helped me trying to like move in a way where it's directed towards what I actually want to do. Meetups, like Jonathan said, meetups are literally the only way that you can really like meet new people and learn new things. So that's what I did. I did a lot of meetups. I went to ones because she's right, like we don't leave our house at all. We don't want to. We really don't, I'm not joking. But we force ourselves to do it because we want to meet people that actually matter. So that sounds bad. But yeah, we want to meet people, we want to get exposed, we want to be around folks that are in our discipline, and so it's really important to do that. So I've been exposed to a lot of people. That's where I got my first consulting job working at Warner Brothers. I met a couple of different colleagues for brunch, and that's pretty much how I got to work for Warner Brothers for that year. So it's kind of the only way to do it.
Anyone else want to add about mentors? Is that blinking light and we need to hurry up? I'm not sure what that means.
It means you're good for
according to my
Q&A.
stopwatch here, we have 10
Cassie,
minutes.
you're good for Q&A.
Oh, we had 10 minutes. Okay, so it's Q&A time? Yeah, is that what you said? You said it's Q&A? Or did you say 10 minutes till Q&A? I have that we have 10 minutes. Is that correct? Who's? Yeah. Hello. 5 minutes? Okay, we have 5 minutes and then Q&A. Is that correct?
That's fine.
Okay. Okay. Well, let us talk about diversity in tech. So, like you said, there's not a lot of people of color in tech. To be exact, there's 5% of females, less than 5% females, and with African, it's about 4% Hispanic, and African Americans, it's less than 1%. So what's interesting is every year, the whole tech industry, they spend about between $200 to $400 billion a year on diversity initiatives, yet and still the African American rate is still at 1%. So what do we think is the problem? You know, I have my own, hypothesis on this, but what do you guys think is the issue, and how could we, where could that 400 billion possibly go to really make some changes?
Well, for me personally, I think that the pool of candidates is not that big. I mean, if you think about college sports, we have a football field, a track field, a basketball court on every campus, every park. You know, it's easily accessible. But when you think about technology and teaching kids how to code and things like that, that doesn't exist in South LA. And I think that's where it starts, is to get companies and people to invest in the communities, to produce the people to, build technology or to utilize their ideas and to go from there. But to say that I'm gonna invest, $400 million in a pool that's empty doesn't really make sense. So I think it starts in the community and starts with the schools and the library system and having creative spaces within the inner city. If you think about like WeWorks, they're all located on the west side. And you think about all these creative spaces, they're either in Santa Monica, Manhattan Beach, or downtown LA, but you think about South Central and Inglewood, that doesn't exist. So for me personally, I would love to build a space in South Central LA, Broadchester, or Manchester and Broadway.
Right.
So like that's my goal.
Right. We get training. I think the solution is training. So much of the initiatives go towards inspiring. And I mean, look at the room. I think people want to get into tech. It's just that we don't know how. People of color have different issues. I had a girl drop out of one of my classes because of childcare issues, So we have different issues than I think the rest of America. So personally, I think training. Lori, would you have anything to add to that? Put you on the spot.
She only has like 4 minutes left, so I'm going to keep it short because I can go on and on and on about this. But I do want to say I totally agree that where we are, there isn't. So what you were saying, there are no co-working spaces, there are no. So I think us learning how to create that ecosystem amongst ourselves is definitely what's needed. We need to create that ecosystem. We need to make sure that we provide that access. We need to make sure that we get that fiber lane in our neighborhoods so that we have adequate connectivity to the internet, because the internet's really important. The internet changed the game for everybody. So having access to those types of things are very important. I would rather see investment in that instead of somebody trying to make me feel good because I'm black.
Okay, that was good.
Yes, I echo that a lot. Yes, people of color, we're not where we should be, but we also shouldn't praise ourselves just because we're black. We really need to make sure that you're really good at your job. Like, you really want to actually be good at your job, and you want to be around people that are going to keep you level and keep you honest with like how well you're actually doing.
So questions.
Hi, I'm just so happy to be here. My name is Shani Muhammad, and I am a teacher at Barack Obama Global Preparation Academy in LAUSD. And I'm here with the students, of course, and fellow teacher and artist Kyla Tillery. And I have a question for the moderator, because we are doing a global, local to global fashion, rip the runway stage